question 3, which is the more text question. We're trying to get things in terms of dollars because we've got this. I mean, we know how much the workers cost per day. We know how much the workers can produce per day. And we know how much the machine costs per day. It gives that in part A. And we know how much the machine produces per day. Kind of before I did part A, I thought about, well, what if we're thinking about we want to produce these 5,400 units, if we knew, I mean, you can figure out how expensive that would be because you know how productive the workers are and you know how much they can produce, so you can get a sense of how expensive it's going to be if we had to only hire people to get this machine produced. So I kind of did that before I did part A. And then you could, let's see, before you do part A, you could get a sense of how expensive it would be to only have workers produce the required 5,400 units. And then when you get to part A, you'd say, well, this machine is taking a big chunk out of how much we have to produce, and we know how expensive it is. So when you buy this machine, then you're adding that cost and you're producing this 1,800 units. So you'll have a certain amount of leftover units that the workers are going to need to produce. And so you should be able to figure out how much the machine plus the required workers you would need to get to your 5,400 units, and you could figure out how expensive that is. That was sort of the approach I took for part A. And then, let's see, for part B, they go on strike, $100 a day, and again, it would basically be the same question, except you've got a more expensive, a doubling of the wage per day. So it's just kind of a comparison of the costs before this machine and after the machine. You can do it the way that I discussed. That was kind of I think the way that's probably a little more direct. But I had this alternative way of looking at it and thinking about how much output per dollar that the workers and the machine are doing for us. And for some reason, I use this marginal revenue product, which I don't know why I use that phrase because that has a pretty particular meaning. Again, you can do it the way I discussed, which is you got to produce the 5,400 units. How much would it cost to do that with only workers? Then how much would it be if you did it with the machine and the workers and the smaller amount of workers? And this other way I did it was thinking about if you're just thinking about which is more valuable, having workers or having this machine, you could think about how much output the machine or the person produces and then think about their costs. And that should give you a sense of like a marginal product per dollar basis. Because if you're going to spend money on hiring an additional worker or if you're going to spend money on buying your first machine, then you can get a sense of how much output a dollar spent on that thing, that person or that machine is going to give you. And you should be able to make a comparison. If you do that, you can make a comparison between which is more productive on a per dollar basis. So I kind of did that both ways for that in my answer key to myself.